everybody, this is Munson Steed, and welcome to CEO to CEO. The CEO today is my brother, John Cohen, NYC Racing Team. What's it going on, winner? NASCAR race car team owner. What's happening?
What's happening, my brother? How's everything?
Come on, brother. It's all about you right now and what it's like to be one of the first of an entire generation to own a NASCAR whole team. I mean, NASCAR team ownership is huge, but it's not easy. That's a huge lift. Can you explain why?
Just to do something different. Like for me, it wasn't about being in the music industry, being in clothing industry. I felt like all of us in alcohol industry, I felt like all of us not all of us, a lot of us went that lane because it was a lane that was easy to because we had a lot of people around it. And for me, I feel like there's a lot of kids that want to get into racing and don't have a lane for it. So I'm trying to build that lane for the future for kids to be able to make it easy for them.
You know, but it's a huge lift. I mean, that is not a poor man's cake. You can't buy that. That's not a Twinkie you got as a business. It's a car, it's a team, it's movement, it's races. You've got, if you let the viewers know, a huge a driver. Just having a driver that can drive in that game is tough. What's it like as a CEO, knowing that you have a very huge budgeted business?
Sleepless nights, just trying, your mind just keep wondering how to build a business and make it grow. Like for me, I want to be like the other teams, and the bigger teams that have been around for 40 years. I want to end up like them, per se, 2 or 3 cars at the track at one time, able to have multiple sponsors on the car and run competitively. So that's my goal, to make sure I get to that level.
So literally annual cost to be in every race, what's that cost? NASCAR team owner?
It ranges between 16 million and $30 million to run competitively. Yeah.
Off the rip, y'all. Off the rip.
Yeah.
Off the rip, to compete, you need 16 million just to have the car on the track. And sponsors are running in droves to sponsor, or it's a slow walk so far?
It's a slow walk so far, but it's picking up, since I've been doing a lot more press out there than previous years. So, and then to the fact that NASCAR is gaining a lot of visibility, just the change of the guards. So yeah, it's moving faster, but not fast enough for me.
The driver you have now, how'd you convince him to come back?
Well, me and him talked for years, and I told him, once I do the Chevy deal, would you come back? And he said, if you got it together, I'll come back and drive. And we worked it from there. But he feel like it's unfinished business, and I feel like it's business I need to start up the way I want to start up, and he was the driver to do it with me. So
cool. Why don't you share his name? Because many people may not know. We ain't got a bunch of fans that even have met a owner of a NASCAR team. I don't think they would know. Obviously, you were hanging out with my man Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, and clearly DJ Envy, who are just, obviously family members with Rolling Out. But literally, the driver's name and what it's like.
So his name is Greg Biffle. He's won over 19 races over the course of his career. He won the truck championship. I mean, he can drive anything. He's right now, I think, the oldest driver in the field. And with that, I mean, he can still drive with a kid that's 21 years old. So, I mean, I feel like he never retired the way that he was, to be a great in the sport, and not able to retire the way you want to retire. I think it's a disservice, and I want to at least give him that. And at the same time, help build my younger drivers up into the position of him.
But there's a huge opportunity. Obviously, EVs coming up hard and strong, electrical vehicles, and you've got a huge need for engineers and pit crews, and a pit crew is a really technical position. Can you share with our viewers what the future looks like for NASCAR racing and employment?
Well, as far as employment, over the last, since I got there in 2009. And since then, the pit crew has built up. At that time, it was like one or two, one Dion Rocco Williams and Mike Metcalf. I was like pretty much the the look of the black pit crew members at the time. And then from now, you see about 50 to 60 of them. And now it's a lot more mechanics, coming in the sport. Being I got a couple on my team that I'm trying to build out, but you have you have a couple engineers, maybe two or three of color. But my goal is to have, more engineers, more crew chiefs of color in the sport.
But when they think of engineers, why do you need an engineer? What is an engineer doing as it relates to the whole racing?
Well, it's a lot of points in these cars that, an engineer need to, with a Roma arm. So Roma arm is a machine that we actually use to measure the car. In order to measure the car, we need to know like points. So when they set up the car, it's able to make the car turn. So it's all angles, it's all, points that makes these cars go fast. Everybody thinks it's the engine, but you can have you're going around in circles. So you can have an engine that goes really fast down a straightaway, but if that car don't turn, then it slows up in the turn, and the car that can turn goes around them. So it's just not just one thing that makes these cars. Everybody think, oh, you can just put a car on the track and drive. There's a lot to it than that.
So the future of EVs, electrical vehicles, what are we seeing? What do you think that's going to mean for NASCAR?
I think NASCAR go to some type of hybrid vehicle at some point, and then it'll go to EV eventually. But I mean, right now, I mean, I would see in the next 4 to 5 years, maybe some hybrid, and then from there, EV.
And for you as a CEO to keep moving, when you think about, is this the moment to invest in NASCAR? Is that what we're saying to LeBron? Come on down and be a part. To some of the other just individuals in our community, is this a moment to seek out investing in NASCAR and getting behind NY Racing Team?
This is a moment that not just the LeBrons, the black CMOs of companies that when they look at NASCAR, they're like, oh, that's not a fit for us. But they doing a disservice to all the young kids who like racing, that want to look up to somebody black in the sport. And for them, they might not think it's cool for them, but just think about all the people that looking up to the sport that want to be in it. So that I'll more look to all of, the black presidents of companies, because this sport is run by sponsorship. So, I look to them to get on board, as well as the LeBrons and people like that.
No, and I understand that, and I respect it. We're talking about so that people understand, literally chief marketing officers and
Yeah,
CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that put their names on trucks, support a car in the way, and a team. $20 million sponsorship from one person, and you're talking multi-billion-dollar. Uh, whether it's a telecom, whether it's Amazon, whether it's a consumer good company, they're all on the track right now. And I guess what we're saying, the both of us, is we need 5 to 10 CMOs to get behind this. You've integrated HBCUs into this. So this is a huge opportunity for us to really see corporate America stand on the track with you. Is that what you're saying?
correct. Totally correct. I mean, a lot of times when I speak to chief marketing officers, they say, NASCAR has a racist background, but that's not where we're at now. We got HBCUs on the track. We bring kids from black colleges that's wanting to go to the track, loving it once they get there and becoming fans of the sport. So for you to say like you don't want to sponsor this sport because of the past is doing a disservice to me and all the kids that come behind me that want to be, part of the sport and fans of the sport.
Well, I think it's both the things that you're saying, but also just denial that there are 125,000 people, number
Correct.
one, no matter what it is. And it's a successful movement that you have. So we need to encourage movements that are going to reflect America. Obviously, more than just NASCAR didn't welcome black folk with a welcome mat, but that day isn't the same. I mean, obviously, if you have a driver, I think the point for me as a CEO, and this is CEO to CEO, the point is invest in a black business. Like at the end of the day, invest in a Black-owned business, invest in you, a media company, which ultimately you are, sponsorship-driven industry, get behind you.
Correct. Especially when we spend the majority of our money into these companies and then they turn around and invest it in teams that don't reflect the culture that we live day to day.
So when you think about the omission, because I want to go a little bit deeper in this, even when you think of the tour locations, you had Atlanta 500 with Stillman Carr on the track. That looked like a good amount of Black folk watching cars out there.
Yeah, no, it was. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And understand, I mean, if you go to any inner city, racing is prominent, drag racing. Black people love the drag race. It's just NASCAR for them was an accepted piece because they didn't have anybody to follow. They didn't have anybody to root for. But now they do. Watch the change of how we change the sport of the way it looks and perceives to other people outside looking in. The game of
The
fame.
business proposition is huge. It's already televised. There's
Yes.
already a monetization that is there and exists for white team owners. So basically, we'd like to include and get ample support. And I think it's just a percentage basis. We're just asking the CMOs that sponsor NASCAR to take the 13% of their budget that they spend NASCAR or add 13%. Don't want to hurt nobody else that's getting something, but add 13% and support a vision of changing and diversity that you say you represent or believe in.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It's all the way correct what you're saying. And I feel like, and like how Charlemagne was saying, when I spoke to him, on the Breakfast Club, like the sport to some people, they feel like it's not their lane, so they don't want to get involved. But it's not your job to look at it as your lane, is look at it, what type of ROI you can make for the company that you work for. And NASCAR has a bigger ROI than any other sport because the brand on the car is the whole thing. Like when you go to a basketball game, you don't go to support Coca-Cola, you go to support LeBron James. But when you come to NASCAR, you come to support the Coca-Cola car, Pepsi car, stuff like that. And you got to realize that the ROI is incredible. You're not going to get that in any other sport than you get in NASCAR.
Well, I think the pivot is also to believe in inclusion. Like what we're saying to CMOs, at least I'm having this conversation with you, is for CMOs to literally know that in order to be anti-racist, we all have to accept invitations into places that we didn't have an invitation. This is no different than corporations who are sponsoring the Augusta golf tournament called the Masters with a green jacket that has not had a welcome mat out, so that's not new.
Mm-hmm.
They never thought that we should really do skateboarding, but we know that all our kids are now skateboarding, and we'll enter those. But they've got to level the field, and I think that the leveling of CMOs and finding brothers to invest in, and that's very different. I think for CMOs to be comfortable that this isn't a one-year investment. This could be a 5-year investment and expand on Bubba being the only person. And once again, he's not an owner, driver, which is like the jockey. It's not the team ownership. So we're really trying to push team ownership as much as we are from an equitable owner, media company owner, NASCAR racing team owner. I think that's a different proposition, which might be part of the uncomfortability, maybe.
I don't see why. I mean, they want to support Black business. They say this all, when it comes to all these Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, they say they want to support Black business, but I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you Black business. I'm giving you in the culture. I'm giving you activation with HBCUs and in any inner city throughout the country. I'm giving you stuff that no other sport can give you. So, they don't have they don't have anything to say that is a negative when it comes to NASCAR. If that's what you're saying in your your speeches and your articles when you write out there that's what you want to do, and then you turn around and tell me this is not for you, then you shouldn't say this in your articles then.
Well, I think the question for you is in getting, and even our community, that we all need to get behind you in a movement way. And we all need to encourage at least the top 10 advertisers in NASCAR to get behind a Black owned car team. I think that's an ask. Would that be proper?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I have the history in the sport. I've been here before anybody, I mean, Brad Daugherty was here before me, but he wasn't a full minority owned team. I'm the first fully minority owned team since Wendell Scott, um, back then in the 60s and 70s. So, and I'm the only one who actually runs their own team. Like, I know everything about the sport. I know about the cars. I'm there day to day. So I'm the only one who actually day to day deals with, from the higher ups in NASCAR to my tire guy who, at the shop.
So it sounds like the opportunity for both NASCAR, you're doing a great service for them to help them integrate what they're doing. Obviously, they are opening the door for you. Um, how soon do you imagine sponsors will really be coming in to understand what you're doing? And who would be the top five that you wish would get behind the team?
Um, I'm hoping as soon as possible. I mean, NASCAR is week to week, so the faster they come on board, the faster I can go start winning races, from there. But my top five, I mean, one would probably be Pepsi. They're not in the sport. I really feel like, especially them doing a lot of stuff saying, Black business, HBCUs, I think that's a great fit. Um, Coca-Cola as well. They do a lot in the sport with other teams. Um, like the traditional ones that was there before, the Lowe's, the Home Depots, those companies that sponsor other teams and built these teams to be out to be powerhouse teams. Um, all the corporations that's in Newark that right now that start from Newark, New Jersey. So like Prudential, Panasonic has major input into Newark, New Jersey's footprint in downtown areas, stuff like that. That therefore we can turn around and do, I work with the Urban Racing School in Philadelphia. That's my STEM program. So basically I want to be able to bring, my STEM truck to any city, teach the kids about STEM and actually bring them to the racetrack. So what they learned on that truck, they can actually see at the track. That way it sheds a light, a light bulb into their eyes of, well, I can do mathematics and do racing at the same time. I can do science and do this at the same time. This is something I want to get into instead of, like looking at engineering as something that's so boring. So, I'm just trying to build it all out that way.
What have you learned about resiliency and the ability to stick to it that you would share with other young CEOs, given that you're literally in new ground? I mean, you're doing this 1960s all over again as it relates to Black ownership, Black freedom, and Black pride and community movement, and elevating our youth and teaching them something. What have you learned through this process?
That if you don't have thick skin within yourself, like for example, myself is my biggest fighter, fighting yourself. Because some days you want to quit when it don't go the way you want to go. Some days you want to just throw up your hands, but it takes time. To build anything is going to take time. Nothing really comes overnight. If it does, you don't grasp the what you're doing, the whole part of your business. Like for me, I thought I'd get right in, I'd get sponsors and it'd be, but it wasn't the time. I may not have the footprint I have now if that would have happened so fast. So I'm glad it happened the way it happened. And now I can expand it out the way I want to be within the sport.
I like that. What do you say to young visionaries like yourself about being a trailblazer? Like literally, that's who you are. You're blazing this trail. Sponsors aren't sponsoring a Black team in NASCAR. You're blazing a trail. What do you say every day when you look in the mirror out loud when you're talking to yourself to correct your thinking that could be, you know, I guess if Will Smith had a moment to rethink everything today, I'm sure he didn't want to wake up and if somebody would have grabbed him. But
Mhm.
you've grabbed onto a dream that's now reality. You're living your dream.
Mhm.
Now, what do you tell yourself to keep your thinking positive, to know that this is you're showing up for God, I guess, when you're living your dreams?
Yeah. So I tell kids two things. Like, if you start your business, make sure you do your passion. There's a difference between owning your own business and then doing investment. If you want to do an investment, you put your money somewhere, you let it sit, and it's investment. If you have your own business, that means it's part of you. So in order for it to be part of you, you need to make it grow, just like any relationship you have. Just like if you have a partner, a wife, when you have an argument with that partner, you feel sick. You start to, you have a certain energy about yourself that you feel sick. When your business is not going right, if you don't have that same energy, the same sickness you feel about your partner, you're not doing what you love, because that means you was willing to let it go. So for me, when stuff don't go right, I have that same sick. When a girl may break up with me, at a certain part in my life, that I'd be like, oh, I miss her. I make sure my business feels that same way, that same fight, that I want it back. And then you love that business when it feels like that. If you don't have that, just that wasn't meant for you to do. And also too, a lot of people say, well, I have a backup plan. It's no backup plan when it's your business. You make it work. Because if you want it to work, it will work. You keep pushing, it's going to work. It's no backup plan. Do what you do, make sure you do it all the way, and that's it. It's going to work. Just keep pushing.
You heard it first here with my brother. If it's not for you, it's not your passion. When you think of the very mission that you're on today, um, what are you telling your family when they ask you, and many entrepreneurs have it, they say, you sure you want to do this? What are you saying to those people that kind of question your dream? Because many people haven't been a CEO that loves and is working. I've heard CEOs say, I show up for God because this is the agreement that I've made with God, not with man. What do you say to even family members who don't get what your passion is?
I haven't really had family members to not be a part of my passion, because they just know how I am. I'm going to figure it out. It's just the friends that you have, first they didn't see it. A lot of people like, you'll never make it. A lot of celebrities, I can name names right now, they'd be like, nah, you'll never make it. And today, like, boy, I can't believe how you just kept with it. A lot of people will come to me and say, hey, you still doing NASCAR? Why would I not be doing NASCAR? What type of question is that you ask me? Am I still doing that? That don't, come to me and say, how are you doing in your sport? So when you see another Black brother and they doing their business, ask them how their business doing first, and not if you're still doing it. Because we put a stigma out thinking that we won't make it, in our business. So like I tell people, when you see a person and you know them, and that's something they've been doing, the first thing you ask them is, how is your business doing, and not if you're still doing this. You support that brother that way.
Drop the mic, y'all. Like, check yourself and make sure that you're encouraging a brother to win. I'm proud of you, man.
I appreciate it.
CEO to CEO. I know it's not easy. I know my brother Todd Brown says you're a phenomenal person, and I'm rooting for you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Anything I can, yeah, nah. Well, when I see somebody doing something for my people, when I see somebody blazing a trail for the future generations of Black people, I'm touched.
Mhm.
It moves my soul to know that there's somebody who, whether my daughter or whether it was my friend's son, decided that now I could be a racer and I could be a place that's a trailblazer, which is no different than the Supreme Court justice. It
Mhm.
just wasn't a welcome mat for her. The
Mhm.
hoods came off, the
Mhm.
gloves came off, and we know that this is what our ancestors said. We're kings and queens, so we can go wherever we want. So
Mhm.
keep going and blazing those trails and
Appreciate you.
making them take down them signs, because every track that you run on, brother, I know that you're making somebody, they going home saying, I like that car. I
Mhm.
like that car. I like that. What is an HBCU? And I think you're changing the vernacular of an entire industry. So congratulations. I'm Munson
Thank
Steed,
you.
CEO to CEO. And this is John Cohen from NYC Racing.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.